Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about teaching English learners or TYL. In this presentation, I will explain the principles of TYL, the teaching approaches and methods, how to teach different language skills, the use of games, songs, and stories, and finally some issues of TYL in Indonesia. So let's get started. First of all, what is TYL? TYL stands for Teaching English to Young Learners. Young learners are usually children between the ages of around 5 until 12. They are naturally curious, active, and they really enjoy learning through fun activities. That's why teaching children is very different from teaching teenagers or adults. They usually can sit quietly and listen to long explanations. Instead, they learn much better when they are actively involved in the lessons. Now, let's move on to the principles of TYL. The first is implicit learning. Implicit learning, children learn English naturally without focusing too much on grammar. For example, instead of explaining the present continuous tense, the teacher can simply say, "I'm jumping, she's running," or "they're playing," while doing the actions. After hearing these expressions many times, children will gradually understand the pattern on their own. The second principle is contextual learning. In contextual learning, English is connected to children's daily lives and real-life situations. For example, when learning about fruits, the teacher can bring real apples, bananas, or orange into the classroom instead of just showing the words in a textbook. This makes learning more meaningful and easier to remember. The third principle is learner-centered. In learner-centered, students play an active role in the learning process while the teacher guides and supports them. In TYL, students should be active participants, not just listeners. Teachers should encourage children to ask questions, play games, work with their friends, and share their ideas. In this case, the teachers act as facilitator who guides the learning process. The last principle is meaningful learning. In meaningful learning, children understand the purpose of what they are learning and can relate it to their own lives. Children learn better when they understand why they are learning some things. That's why learning activities should have a clear purpose and be interesting. For example, instead of just memorizing vocabulary, students can use new words while playing a shopping game or talking about their favorite food. Okay, next let's talk about approaches and methods used in TYL. Our common method is communicative language teaching or CLT. This method focuses on communications. Students are encouraged to use English to express their ideas instead of just memorizing grammar rules. Another popular method is total reciprocal response. In this method, children respond to comment by removing their bodies. For example, the teacher says, "Stand up, touch your nose," or "Open the door," and the students do the actions. This method works really well because children enjoy learning while moving. Another method is task-based learning. Students complete simple tasks using English, such as drawing pictures, matching cards, or making a mini project together. I said that teachers can also use project-based learning, where students create posters, short presentations, or simple script while practicing English. Each method has its own strengths, so teachers can choose or combine them depending on the lesson and the students' needs. Now, let's talk about how to teach different language skills to young learners. For listening, teachers can use songs, short videos, or simple stories. Children usually enjoy listening to interesting sounds and watching colorful animations. For speaking, teachers should give students lots of chances to practice. For example, they can have simple conversations, do role plays, ask and answer questions, or produce themselves. For reading, teachers can start with pictures, books, flashcards, or short and simple tasks. Pictures help children understand the meaning even if they don't know every word. For writing, students can start by tracking letters, completing sentences, labeling pictures, or writing very short paragraphs. Writing activities should be simple and suitable for their age. Another important part of TYL is using games, songs, and stories. Games make learning more fun and keep children motivated. For example, teachers can use vocabulary games, guessing games, or memory games. While students are having fun, they are actually practicing English without feeling stressed. Songs are also very helpful. Children can remember vocabulary and pronunciation more easily through repetitions. Songs also help improve their listening and speaking skills. Stories are just as important because they introduce new vocabulary, sentence patterns, and moral values. Teachers can tell stories using pictures, puppets, or simple animations to make them more interesting. From my own experience, when I help children learn English, they become much more excited when we use games instead of just reading from the textbook. Even simple activities like guessing pictures or singing together made them participate more actively. Lastly, I would like to talk about some issues of TYL in Indonesia. Based on the articles we studied, there are several challenges. The first issue is policy and curriculum inconsistency. The English curriculum in Indonesia has changed several times, such as from curriculum 213 to curriculum Merdeka. Because of these changes, many schools became confused about how English should be taught. Some schools continue teaching English, while others reduce English lessons. As a result, the implementation is not always consistent. The second issue is teacher competency and training. Many elementary schools still don't have enough professional English teachers. Sometimes classroom teachers have to teach English even though they don't have English education background. We said the opportunities for TYL training are still limited. The third issue is educational resources and infrastructure. Some schools have limited teaching materials, technology, or learning media. Ready-made teaching resources can also be expensive, so teachers often have to create their own materials using simple and affordable resources. Another issue is curriculum development and lesson planning. One study conducted in Indonesia found that many teachers face challenges when preparing lesson plans that match their students' characteristics. They also have to deal with limited time and design learning activities that are meaningful for children. On top of that, many teachers need to develop their own teachers' materials because there is no one official English curriculum for all elementary schools. Teachers also face challenges when choosing the most suitable teaching methods and managing the classroom. When if a lesson is well planned, students' different abilities, motivation, emotions, and a classroom situation can make the activities less effective. Another challenge is assessment. Teachers need to create assessments that are suitable for young learners, but many of them find it difficult to design authentic and age-appropriate assessments that match the learning objectives and students' abilities. Besides that, the study also highlights the importance of program evaluation. Regular program evaluation helps teachers, schools, and policymakers identify the strengths and weakness of English programs. It also supports curriculum improvement and helps schools provide better English learning for young learners. Finally, teachers hope for a more suitable curriculum for elementary schools. They want a curriculum that is contextual, meaningful, character-based, and flexible enough to meet students' needs and school conditions. This kind of curriculum can make English learning more relevant, enjoyable, and effective for young learners. Because of these challenges, teaching English effectively to young learners can be more difficult. However, teachers continue to find creative ways to make learning interesting for their students. So, to conclude, teaching English to young learners is not only about teaching vocabulary or grammar. It is about creating meaningful, enjoyable, and engaging learning experiences. Teachers should understand children's characteristics, use appropriate teaching methods, and create activities that encourage students to communicate confidently in English. Even though there are still many challenges in Indonesia, I believe that with creative teachers, supportive schools, and continuous improvement, TYL can become more effective and enjoyable for every child. Okay guys, so thank you very much for listening. Have a nice day.